when I look back, everything I've ever done for myself, everything I ever wanted that I attained, that joy was very fleeting, super fleeting. And when I look at things I've done for other people, the joy never diminishes, ever.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Born to Tint podcast with the Miller Brothers. This is a very special episode. We sit down with Mark McGhie from Chermac Builders, old family friend. We grew up down the street from them. It's a two-part special about life, family, and a small business. Check it out.
She's not staying in town.
She's not staying here.
She's got options.
Yeah, she don't want to go.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, there's this about it, right? There's nothing that replaces getting out on your own.
Oh, yeah.
To learn how to live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember my dad, I grew up in a house of all boys. And dude, we were young. My dad was like, you got three choices when you graduate high school. You can pack up your crap and get out and get a job, get your life going. That's one. Two, join the military, and 9 weeks, they'll make a man out of you.
Yep.
He said third is you go to college. You go to college, your mom and I'll help you. Well, when I got out of school, nothing was happening. So I was like, I'll go to college. It was like 2 months. My dad said, it's time for you to be out on your own. So that lasted for 2 months, right?
Yeah.
And my first trip to the grocery store with our roommates involved this. Well, how much is it if we put this back? And how much of it is we put this back?
Yeah.
And you learn very quick how to manage your money and how to live.
Yeah.
But we're living in a world now where, dude, parents bail them out. 30-year-old kids are living at home with their mom and dad.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me. Crazy. Because I'm thinking, what are they going to do when you're gone?
Yep.
What are they going to do? They're cripples.
Yep.
You've created cripples, you
Yeah.
know? But, I mean, I think it's a good thing, dude.
Yeah, no, I want her to get away. Like for me too, I had to go join the army, get away to grow up a little.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that can replace that. Especially because young people don't take advice. Like we had this conversation with Avi. We had this conversation with Avi. There's so many times that you look back and you go, "Dang, I wish I would have taken that advice."
Bro, I used to look at the girls, especially up, because she was like the most hard-headed one growing up, and I would say to them, if you close your eyes and picture just flat ground as far as you can see. There's no mountains, there's no nothing, just flat ground. And then there's all these big concrete posts all over that ground. And at each concrete post, I want you to picture a line of teenagers. They're all standing there in line, waiting for their turn to get up to bang their head against it and see if their mom and dad were right that it hurts and you shouldn't do it. Now, there's only two kinds of teenagers on the testing ground. Those who get up, bang their head, and go, crap, they were right. I don't want to do that. And those who, in spite of the pain, will stand there and beat their head over and over and over. There's no experience. There's nothing that changes experience. There just isn't.
Yep.
There just isn't. You can be told, but for some reason, the way we're wired, you got to bang your head to see.
Oh, that's where it's like the whole getting older thing. I would assume now is where I'm getting at. Like when I probably turned 30, that's when I had the glimpse of realizing like, wow, I'm still a child, and I really was a child even beforehand. And it's just like every lap around the sun, realizing like how much more experience I've gotten into something, and realizing that's how you look at the people that are like this is, I guess the successful people that you're trying to take their advice and go. And the biggest piece of advice you kind of usually get from most of them is like, it's experience. It's you're doing this over and over and over again. Are you going to learn from it? Yeah. And then you go from there. I mean, like I started thinking about, I'm 12 years away from having an 18-year-old, and then he could it's like, I'm even hearing the advice about the three things you can do. I'm pretty sure I'm going to take that. That's what he's going to get. Those are your three options. And it's like, damn, 12 years is going to go by.
Oh, dude, it does. It does. I'm sitting here at 65 years old, bro. And I find it probably started like a decade ago. I was probably driving home one night, right? It was fall, and it had cooled off in the evening. I'm driving home, it's dark, and I rolled my window down and I put my arm out, and I'm like, oh wow, that feels so good compared to the scorching heat of the summer. And then this thought came across my head. I was like, man, I wonder how many more falls I have in my life.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's a weird transition, right? When you're raising your kids, they're a stark reminder of time passing because you're watching them grow up before your eyes. When your kids get out of your house and they're grown, this model of time passing kind of goes away, right? I would tell my daughters when they work for me or my wife or whatever, my life operates like this. It's payroll to payroll, quarter to quarter. I got to make sure I got a payroll every Friday, and every 3 months I got quarterlies I got to file. And time clicks so much faster than you realize. Obviously, time doesn't move any quicker, but it seems to. Yeah. And you wake up one day, doing the work we do, right? We do a lot of work for people with disabilities or older people or whatever. And a guy that worked with me, he worked with me for like 28 years, avid paper reader. So he brought his newspaper every single day. And at lunchtime, he would read his newspaper while he's eating lunch. Doing the work for people that we do, when he broke out his paper, I'd say, hey, give me the obits, man. And I'd read the obits. I'm looking for clients, right? And here's how I read them. John Smith, 30 years old. Ooh, probably a car wreck, right? James, whatever, 53. Ooh, probably cancer or heart attack, right? Alice Jones, 93, old age. And then one day I looked at him and I was like, bro, we're in the zone. And he looked up and he's like, what zone? I was like, the death zone, brother. We're in our mid-50s. Could be a cancer, could be heart attack, could be a stroke, it could be whatever. And crazy thing is, 8 years later, 7 years later, he pops up with a brain tumor. In 2 years, gone, just like that. And you're like, wow, it's just weird, right? So you look at this is just where I am at this stage of my life. You look at your lineage. How old did your grandparents live to be, right? How old did your parents live to be? Because that's pretty much, I think longevity is greatly tied to genetics. I mean, my uncle calls me, my mom's brother calls me. He's like, hey, I quit smoking. I'm like, you're 85. Really? You're 85. He lived 87. The guy had multiple heart attacks, all these procedures, kept smoking, lived to be 87 years old, right? Other people you meet, they've led a super clean, healthy lifestyle, and they pop up with something and die. So there's that. So the proclivity to live to an older age obviously doesn't immunize you from a car wreck or something like that, but just normal living, a lot of it has to do with that what you're coming from, the stock that you're coming from genetically, in my mind, right? But dude, still you look at it and you go, I look at it now, I'm 65, I'm like, let's see. My birth father, who I really didn't know, lived to be like 85. My mom lived to be 87. My mom's parents lived to be 87 and 89. I have the potential to live to be that old, and then I take stock of how I've lived my life, and I'm like, maybe not, right? So, but here's what I know. There's far, far less years in front of me than are behind me. And it's a weird point in time. Because you guys are still young enough that, and you got like, your whole life is still in front of you in many ways, right? When you're young, you're like, you can't wait to be 18, or you can't wait to be 21, or you can't wait to drive, or, whatever it is. And once you get out and get grown up, you get married, you have kids or whatever, you get into this mode, right? And you just it's week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. You watch your kids grow up. But dude, the time is fleeting. It's like super fleeting. And now I look at my kids and I'm like, how can I possibly have a daughter that's going to be 42? It's wild. Or how could I be older than my dad was when he died? Right? Or numerous family members on my dad's side. When I say my dad that raised me, my dad that was my dad, but it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. And good to be more aware of it now, because It was my dad getting cancer that changed radically how I was as a father. Radically, right? I was 25 years old, no more ready to run our company than fly to the moon. Right? Being number 2 at 25 was super comfortable. Anything sticky, I could be like, let me get with my dad on that.
I know
right?
that feeling.
He'll make the decision or whatever, right? And 27, well, he walked in my office and was like, I got lung cancer. They're operating on me in the morning. Here's safety deposit box keys. Here's my life insurance policies. If something happens, contact Norm, our insurance guy, this, that, and the other. And I was just like, I should have stayed in school. I should have stayed in school. That's what I thought. And I went on this crash course of, dude, I gotta learn everything, because I not only do I have to provide for my family, but I got to be able to take care of my mom. My 2 brothers work for us. My sister-in-law works for us. My uncle works for us. Everybody's income is now going to be based on me making everything work. And I was 27 because Ob was 2. She was 2 years old. And it was Halloween. And I had a bunch of files sitting at my dining room table. I was working on them until it was time to, we were going to go down to my parents' house on the golf course at DI in Eastern, great neighborhood for trick-or-treating. And their mom said, I'm going to take them around the neighborhood here. Do you want to go with us? I was like, I'll work on these files. And when we go to my mom's, I'll go with you then. And I looked at Abby, and she was dressed like a bunny rabbit with this black eye, because she was like hell on wheels as a child. And I looked at her and I thought, it's only going to be 2 one time, man. One time. And there's no do-overs. There's just no do-overs. And I looked at that, and it changed everything for me, because I looked at my dad. Now I'm 2 years in. He was given 6 months to a year to live. 2 years in, he's still alive, but I think every event, every holiday is going to be the last, because here's what I know for sure. He's going to die.
Yep.
And I was super close to my dad. And I saw his regrets. And let me tell you, gentlemen, not one time did I ever hear my dad say this. Oh, God, son, if only that deal had gone through. Because my old man had some crazy deals. We had plans in 1976 for personal storage. There was no such thing. Couldn't get anybody to invest. We had the 5 acres, we had the plans, we had the whole 9 yards, and this was the attitude. Who would rent a storage unit and put their stuff in a storage unit, right?
Oh
Yeah.
Whole bunch of stuff like that, but not one time, dude, did he ever say that. All of his regrets were related to family. And at that point, I was like, all right, I'm done working at night. I'm not taking any appointments after 5. I'm not working on weekends, because if something were to happen and I were to die early, if anybody looked at my daughters and said, do you think your dad loved you? I wanted that immediate answer to be absolutely, absolutely. How do you know? Well, because he never missed anything we were at in school. He coached us playing softball. He was at everything. He was there for us, you know. And that's how I operated. Because I get people be like, well, can you come out on Saturday? I'm like, I can't. Well, why not? I said, well, can you buy a car at midnight tonight? Well, no. Why? Well, because they're closed. I said, so am I. I have kids. I have kids.
Oh, I like that.
You know? I mean, that was just it. Because you start chasing. I mean, dude, I'm freaking my 20s. I'm chasing the golden ring, bro. Right? That's what I'm chasing. And then I was like, man, if I miss this time with my kids, you don't get to make it up, you know? And that became the most important thing, right? Because I just like, man, if anything were to happen, I want to know my children feel they know how much I love them.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Dude, in my business, what I do, most of what I do, for the most part, I'm like, people are one trip, one fall, one stroke, one whatever from completely life-altering event. And it's brutal. I deal with people that have ALS. I deal with people that have strokes. I deal with people. Man, your mom was a wreck when she called me when your dad had that stroke. She was a wreck. And I just was like, because I know what that is. And it's brutal. But we're all just 1 second away from something that could just completely change the trajectory of your life.
Yeah, no, okay, I can relate to I wasn't 27, but I can relate to when my dad had a stroke. Like he was already, I wouldn't say on his way out, but pretty much on his way out. Like he wanted to, like, I'm grandpa.
Right.
I'm 35 years. I'm good.
Yeah.
I want you guys. So he was already grooming and getting us ready for that.
Right.
And then when that happened, it was tough.
Oh, dude.
He was like being the number 2. Yes, is very, very comfortable in the fact of like anything that would happen. Like I know I could make the decision. My dad would have my back on it, but it would always be. I always called him because he was always my go-to. Of like he has the experience. Like
100%.
I only have so much, so it's like
100%.
When those first couple of decisions came in, where we had maybe a job go sideways or a customer, something's happening. It's like the natural go to my phone to call my dad and realize like I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like
no, dude.
It was tough.
Dude. You know the show Jerry Maguire? All right. All through that show, and a lot of people don't remember it, but all through that movie, there's these vignettes that pop up where Jerry Maguire's original guy that mentored him as a sports agent pops up with these like sage words of wisdom. My dad's been gone 34 years, bro. And that is my day every day, right? When I meet, nobody goes into somebody's house and says, "Whoo, hang on, Mr. Miller. It sounds like you want quality work. It sounds like you want good communication. Sounds like you want to be treated with respect in your home, treated with respect." And that is not what we specialize in. We specialize in mediocre work. We have horrible communication skills. We like to give you vague specifications and a blowball price, and then at every juncture, we're adding more money, or we don't show up, and we don't answer phone calls or emails. Everybody, your business is the same. Everybody does quality work. Every sales guy says whatever he thinks he needs to say to sell that job, but not everybody performs the same.
Yep.
They just don't, right? And so I tell people all the time, I draw stuff before I even get the job. And they're like, "Well, not a lot of time." I'm like, "It is a lot of time. But what's important to me is I'm presenting to you the way I would want to be presented to.
Yep.
I'm presenting to you to make certain that what I heard you tell me you want, that we're on the same page." Because here's what my old man used to say: things that start out wrong rarely wind up right. Rarely.
Yep.
All those little things are always in my head. And he's been gone 34 years, dude. And there came a point when the cancer spread from his lungs to his brain where I would consult him and then I'd go, "I don't think I can follow that. I don't think he's in his right frame of mind. And he's going to be gone and I'm going to be the guy holding the bag. So I'm going to make the decision because I'm going to be responsible ultimately for whatever that long-term decision is."
Yeah.
But when you're operating with somebody who's kind of time tested, they've been through ups and downs, right? Small business is hard. Most people have no idea, right? The failure rate in construction, I read years ago, 88% in 5 years. So 100 companies open, 88 are gone in 5. If you go another 5, out of the 88, 6 more are gone. So there's a 6% survival rate in about 10 years, because in a 10-year cycle, you'll probably go through a recession, and a recession will weed out some of those guys. Small business in and of itself, there's a massive failure rate, because the fact that you're a good chef doesn't mean you'll be a good restaurateur.
Yeah.
right? The fact that
Absolutely.
you're a good carpenter doesn't mean you'll be a good contractor. The fact that you're a good whatever does not mean that you'll be a good business person, because business is numbers. It's just numbers.
Yep.
I mean, dude, I know people in the industry, and I'm always shocked at how little they know, but they seem to get past it. But it's crazy. I mean, in my business, contractors go give somebody $100,000 bid for a kitchen, and they want 50 G's up front. I'm thinking, dude, do you really think I would give you 50 grand when you ain't turned a screw? For real? That's not happening.
Yeah.
Right? But the law says you can't do that. Right? But they ignore the law, or they don't know the law, or whatever. I mean, for you guys to be in business, and here's the other thing: second generation businesses, even a higher failure rate, because they don't have the skin in the game. I didn't start my business. You guys didn't start this business. Your dad did. Yep. My dad did, right? And so when you survive and thrive as a second generation, that's a huge accomplishment, man. Huge accomplishment, because they don't have that commitment to what it was, right? I mean, I've told all my kids, I think part of why I've stayed in business is because I operate with the same value system that I watched my dad operate with,
yep.
Right? I don't try to argue with people to accept something that I feel is substandard. I just wouldn't do it. Yep. I mean, dude, when I send guys to work at my house, my wife always starts off by saying, please don't make them redo it. Please don't make them redo it. So there's like two things in my house I look at every time, and I'm like, I can't stand that. But, I'm sure you can imagine.
Oh, yeah. No,
yes.
100%. That's crazy. It's what's wild. We started talking about time, and it's like how long we've known you is crazy.
Oh, dude.
Like,
it is super wild.
Yeah.
Super wild.
I went to service last week. I ran into Omar and Avi, and it's like I introduced my son to him, and I was like, she's known me since I was your age.
Yeah.
I think I was about 6 years old, and it's just like to think about it now. It's like,
oh, dude.
Yeah.
What's the age difference between you guys?
5 years, almost 5, 4, almost 5.
Almost 5. Yeah.
I think you were younger, dude. You were pretty dang young. Do you know what year you guys moved?
Yeah, I was in
well,
third grade. So,
and I was 5 or 6. I was 5 to 6 because I was in. I was the first technical graduating class of
Newcomb
for I think for kindergarten. I started in kindergarten. I worked my way all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
Newton.
it's wild, dude. Wild.
Yeah.
And I definitely always remember you being around. And anytime I came over, I remember you razzing me. So here I am, the local boy from down the street coming to hang out with your daughters.
Bro, what's funny though is I only have great memories, dude, of all of that. Even though our family went through some crazy, difficult times, I still look back at all that as, just good memories.
Yeah.
I have no bad memories of you guys, your mom and dad, right? Your dad was always helping somebody, always. And that's something I always respected about your dad, right? I think your dad was 100% committed to you guys, your family.
Oh, yeah.
But then extended family as well. It was very reminiscent to me of my dad. My dad was always helping extended family, always. The funny thing was he had one rule. If I help you, there's only one condition. You can't tell anybody I helped you, because he wanted zero accolades. My parents' idea was, if we help you and everybody knows we help you, we're getting all this attention, and that's not why we're helping you. We're helping you because we've been blessed enough to be able to help you. And I was always like, wow, that's so counter to what you see in the world, right?
Yeah.
The world is all about self-accolades and self-promotion, and,
Oh, no, I would say my dad was he was the same way in the fact because he would be helping people that my mom wouldn't even know he'd be helping.
Yeah, not even just family, like
Yeah,
employees that we had.
Yeah.
Lived with us at times because they were trying to get them clean from being alcoholics or whatever. And that definitely left a big impression on me, though, because I think I've,
Well, you can get burned too.
Yeah.
I mean, right? I had a 1967 Fender Stratocaster underneath my desk at my office that I was going to take to a shop one day to have them replace some strings and tune it up. And as long as the case was there, I figured the guitar was inside of it, right? And I had an employee come to me and he's like, dude, I'm struggling. You see, I'm putting in all these hours. I'm only putting in 8 hours. It's because I'm spending like 2 hours a day trying to find a fix. I got a heroin problem. I need your help. And so I helped him get into a methadone clinic and everything seemed to be going good. And as soon as I stopped checking on his attendance at the methadone clinic, things started to happen. And one day I went in the back of the shop. We had a 14-inch concrete saw, expensive saw. And I opened up the case and it wasn't there. And I was like, and then I started looking. And when I opened my guitar case, the guitar was gone. The killer is that guitar today worth about 25 grand.
Oh, wow.
30 grand. And that was what I got for trying to help that guy.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't go back and change it. Better, the funny thing is when my mom was passing away, she was like, if I hadn't given away so much money, I could have left more money for you. And I was like, Mom, look, if you're going to make an error, isn't it better to err on the side of being a good person than being a greedy person? I'm not worried about what you leave me. What you've imparted on me is far more valuable than anything tangible, right?
And that goes back to the beginning of our conversation, like people that are being coddled right now, just culturally not being sent out on their own. It's the same thing. Like teach someone to fish, right?
100%.
Same thing, right?
I just said that yesterday. I was talking to a guy who was like, hey, you teach, this is just my philosophy. You teach a guy to fish, or you feed a man a fish, you feed him for the day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for his life.
Yep.
Right? But you're 100% right. It's people get just hung up on stuff that's kind of crazy, because the other thing I see in my business is most people don't take care of their parents when they're old. And it's really weird to me. I meet far less people who take care of their parents than who don't, right? I've got an elderly couple, pretty well-to-do. He was a petroleum engineer. His wife was an attorney. And he called me. He calls me for everything. It's kind of wild, but he called me and he's like, I've got an emergency. My generator's been going on for 3 days and I don't know what the problem is and this and that. And so I hooked him up with an electrician. The electrician went out, figured out what the problem was, fixed it. And he calls me back and he's like, one of the best things that ever happened to Carol and I was meeting you. And I was like, Dwayne, I appreciate that, but there's a lot of good things that happen in his life. I can't rely on my children. My children don't give a shit about us. And I got off the phone and I was like, oh man, that's brutal. They hardly ever see their kids. They're at the end of their life. Hardly ever see their kids, right? When I went to do, I did a bathroom for them, an accessible bathroom. And he tells me, we're signing the contract. He's like, my kids told me I shouldn't do this. It's way too much money. But he's like, you know what? F them. It's not their money. They're not here to take care of us. And I was like, it was funny, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, oh man, dude, to get to the end of your life and you don't feel like your kids care about you, I can't even wrap my head around what that would feel like. You know what I mean? I just can't even imagine. And taking care of my mom at the end of her life. We took care of her the last 5.5 years of her life. And bro, it was tough for sure, because my mom could be tough, dude, tough. And she could be super loving and super wonderful, but she could freaking, if she was on a tear, it wasn't a good thing. Yeah. But I remember thinking, it's my mom. I can no more put her in a home than fly to the moon. And I kept reminding myself, this is as hard for her, if not maybe harder than it is for us. Because prior to me bringing her home, if she wanted to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning with her deaf ears and turn the television up to an outrageous level of volume, she could do whatever she wanted. But now she can't because she lives with me and I need to sleep at night. You know what I mean? And, but I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it. But it's, the other thing is, I think as we get older, it's almost like we revert. I remember my mom saying to me one night, she's like, I said, Mom, it's dinner. She says, I'm not really going to eat tonight, honey. I'm going to have Milky Ways. And I was like, Mom, you can't have Milky Ways for dinner. She's like, why not? I'm 82. I said, for the same reason I couldn't have Snickers for dinner when I was 8. And she's like, what are you saying? I'm 8? I said, no, I'm not saying that, Mom. I mean, do you want to poop? Or do you not want to poop? If you want to poop, you got to eat some greens, right? And I'm thinking to myself, so we go to a doctor. She can't hear crap. She's got $6,000 worth of hearing aids, but she doesn't like to wear them. And we're sitting in, a doctor's office. When you're in the room, it's like this little room. He's sitting maybe like 6 or 7 feet from us. And my mom, in this loud voice, she says, my son says I can't have Milky Ways for dinner. Do I have to listen to him? The doctor smiles and he looks at me and then he looks at my mom and he goes, I think your son's just trying to look out for your best interest. She turns, looks at me and she goes, what did he say? I'm like, and then, another night she's like, I'm ready for bed. Would you tuck me in? I said, sure, Mom, I'll tuck you in. So I go in, I get her in bed. You didn't kiss me goodnight? So I give her a kiss on her forehead. And she says, make sure to leave light on for me. I walked down the room. I looked at my wife. I said, it's my 83-year-old little girl, man. That's what I got here. You know what I mean? And I think there's some truth to that, right? Because we kind of revert back and you become more childlike in many ways. You want it your way and, as opposed to using that more mature thinking that you develop. But man, if you live to be old enough, dude, I used to tell Abby, I'm like, I want to live old enough to be a pain in the ass for you. If you ever have to take care of me, I hope that your husband comes in and says, your dad's out front naked again. Go get him.
Oh, that's great.
I don't know, man. But it's crazy for sure, man, for sure. I just think back to dealing with your mom when your daddy had that stroke, dude. She was broken, and my heart was just like, because there are people I do work with, and they're just going through the motions, and then there are people that you just see, how much they love that person, how much they care, and I think it's dissipating in our culture. I just do. Right? You guys are growing up, and the internet's been around pretty much your whole life.
Yeah. For him, I remember actually some of my first times ever using the internet was
before that
at your guys' house,
AOL,
getting on AOL, waiting for it to dial in, and but we're right on that cusp of I remember no internet, and then I remember it becoming a thing and not really working very well to what it is now.
Right. But the point I'm making is, I say this all the time, right? I mean, when Facebook first came out, I remember thinking, what an incredible tool. I'm connecting with family members and people I hadn't talked to in forever. But it didn't take long before I'm looking at posts and I'm going, what the hell is this? So, who says this? Right?
I've got a theory on it. It ties back to our whole conversation. I think if you kind of look back historically, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, especially with the chaos in the world. There's this theory of every 4 generations or about every 80 years, we if you go back 4 generations from now, you're about that World War I, World War II era of people that went through something so tough that it built a generation of people that knew what bad could really be. You had millions of people around the world that saw the worst of what humanity could be. And then you have like this golden age of those people and their children that were close enough to see it kind of do everything they can to avoid it happening again. It's what staved off the Cold War. I mean, you think about it, those World War II veterans were probably in their 60s about the time the Soviet Union fell, maybe 70s, 80s, depending on how old they were.
I mean, my dad joined the Navy right at the end of World War II. And the minute the war ended, they didn't need that many sailors, soldiers, whatever. So he was immediately put into active reserve. So he's working a naval depot. So he was born in 28. World War II ended in 45. And then he got immediately called up to Korea when they went into Korea. But dude, my grandfather was born in 1906. Okay?
Yeah.
There were no cars where he lived.
Yep.
Idaho-Wyoming border. There's two towns that are like literally split. The state splits the street in half. One side is called Freedom. I think the other side is called Afton. And freedom was freedom because if you committed a crime in this state, all you had to do was walk across the street and you were free. Because states, there was no reciprocal law. And my grandfather dropped out of school in 8th grade when his dad died and took over an 800-acre dry farm, meaning water came from rain. 800 acres. And worked that farm until he was into his early 20s. So you had draft horses for plowing and pulling. You had, I listened to my grandfather's stories and it's just wild. But that's 1906. Now that's going back 3 generations, right?
Yeah.
So going back to his father's generation, they were like coming across the plains to settle, which is wild when you think about it.
Yeah.
When we had that pony, were you guys living in the house when we got the pony?
And I know you had a horse.
Yeah, well,
I don't know if you had a pony.
Yeah, when we first got the pony, that January, we got the pony, gave the girls a pony on Christmas. So Gab would have been, I don't know. They were super young, though, still super young.
Yeah.
So January, it snowed. Like one of those that came down and stuck and there was all this snow. So the girl's mom calls me at the shop like midday. And she says, hey, how can I get green out of concrete? I said, green what? Just green. I'm thinking, well, like green what? What? She goes, I just, would bleach do it? Would this, would that? I'm like, well, I guess so. And so I got home and what she had done was worried about the pony in the snow, brought him into the garage and he crapped all over and walked it into the slab. So I called my grandpa, still alive. I said, Grandpa, what was the temperature in Star Valley in January? He said, well below zero. I said, like what? He goes, could be 20 below zero. Could be 30 below zero. I said, where were the horses? He says, in the pasture. I said, how'd they stay warm? He said, they stood really close together. I looked at my wife, I said, 32? Don't need to bring the horse in.
Yeah.
But it is a generational thing, right?
Yeah.
My grandfather worked, think of it this way, there was no unemployment. There was no Social Security.
Yeah.
None of that. Bro, if you lost your job, you were looking for a job. Nobody said, oh, I don't do that. You took whatever you needed to put food on that table for your family. Well, then comes my parents who grew up during the Depression, and it was, you'll eat what's set before you. They went through food rationing, gas rationing, all of that during World War II. And I think every generation wants to try to do more for their kids and more for their kids. But what it does is it results in an entitlement mentality,
Yep.
right? And they don't want to go out and work. They don't want to start at the bottom. They don't want to, whatever that case is, may be, right? And so I think back to when Ross Perot ran as a third party for president. And one of the things I'll never forget he said was, hard times breed strong people and good times breed weak people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that is so true.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
And now we have a culture where people either live just beyond their means or right up at their means, and they can't forego anything because they want immediate gratification, right? They got to have the big house, the new car, the this, the that, the other, and then anything happens and they have financial calamity. And it's wild because at this stage in my life, I look back across my life, and I always use a big screen TV as the example. Abby was like 14. She says to me one day, "Hey, Dad." No, she wasn't 14. She was in high school. She says, "Hey, Dad, what do you think of a big screen TV?" I said, "Well, geez, I've wanted one ever since you folded it out and it was these 3 projectors that blew up onto a concave screen." I said, "But let me see. I've sent Gab to Europe twice. I sent you to New York with your theater group. Allie's going to Europe this summer. I guess when I'm done investing in your education, I guess that's when I'll get a big screen TV." For years, I wanted a big screen television. I remember there used to be an electronics store called Good Guys.
Mm-hmm.
First time I ever saw a flat panel television was at Good Guys. The 30-inch panel was $20,000. And I remember looking at that going, who in the hell spends $20,000 for a television? But then, you stand back and you're like, that picture's amazing, right? So it was going through my divorce. And dude, I was baroque. I got my part of our house. We had, the house had like 500,000 equity. I got 80,000 out of that. I got to pay my general manager for borrowing money to pay attorney's fees plus interest. I had to pay my aunt, borrowing money from her to pay attorneys with interest. I had to dump all the money into my company to keep it afloat because I was like massively in debt. But I kept enough money that I'm getting me a plasma. I went to the Costco down on Marks. I didn't even buy the one in the box. I bought the open box because I'm saving some money. I called Abby. I'm like, "Hey, I need you to meet me at Costco. You got to hold the TV up while I drive it home." I couldn't believe I had a 42-inch sexy black Pioneer plasma. Couldn't believe it. 3 days. First 3 days, I come home and I'm just like, I freaking have a plasma TV. Because during the divorce, when I was finally able to get anything out of the house, because it was months and months and months, I got a 27-inch Sylvania that you pulled the knob to turn it on. And when I set it up and I pulled the knob, I was like, "Oh, please, God, let this work. Let this work." And I pulled the knob and I was like, thank God we have TV, right? So we get the plasma. The third day after getting it, I came home and I turned it on and I was looking at it and I was like, I wonder if I should have got the 50-inch. And I thought to myself, really? All those years of wanting a big screen TV, and it only took 3 days to feel discontent with that? The wanting was way better than the attainment.
Yeah.
Right? 2 days later, it was stolen.
Oh, God.
No way.
2 days later, the girls called me. They're like, "We've been broken into." And I was like, "Get out of the house." Because I'm thinking, I have guns upstairs. And if they're still in the house and they're upstairs, there's only one way down, and you need to be the hell out of there. But then I bought the 50. But I didn't buy the black one, right? I bought a silver one, right? But it's like anything else, right? You think, the point I was going to make was, at this stage of my life, when I look back, everything I've ever done for myself, everything I ever wanted that I attained, that joy was very fleeting, super fleeting. And when I look at things I've done for other people, the joy never diminishes, ever.
Yeah.
My big screen TV lasted 3 days before I was like, maybe I should have got the big one. Maybe I should have coughed up the extra money and got the $4,000 50-inch Black Pioneer, right? And then I think forward, and my GM was like a big football guy, big football fan, watching TV on a freaking old school TV. And so one year for Christmas, I went to Costco. I bought him a big LED, big screen TV, and dude, he was freaking over the moon. Well, the joy of that television never went away from me, ever.
Yeah.
My television lasted 3 days. You know what I mean? And it was just like, okay, I get it. The stuff that we do for other people has much greater significance than what we do for ourselves. Or things you do for your kids, right? That doesn't go away.
Yeah.
But it's the stuff, because there's always something new.
Yeah.
Right? There's always a newer phone, always a newer car, always a better home, always a better whatever. And it's like watching a hamster on a wheel. You get on that wheel, man, and my wife will say to me sometimes, she'll say, honey, we never compare down. We only compare up. Whenever we look at someone else and go, man, if only, just turn around, because there's somebody behind you going, man, if only I had what he has.
Comparison's the thief of joy.
100%, dude. 100%.
But it's like, somehow it's weird. It's like cooked in. Like even your story about the even like your story on the TV, like
100%.
Only took 3 days to be like, oh man.
No, it's 100% though.
Yeah.
It's our nature,
Yeah.
right? I mean, think back, my mom used to tell me when I was young, she'd be like, honey, deep down, everybody's good. Deep down. You just got to look for it. But everybody's basically good. And then my faith journey made me go, no. Deep down, everybody's rotten.
Yep.
You don't have to. Did either of you guys have to teach your kids to lie? You don't have to. They're born liars. They just got to get to the point where they realize, ooh, I could probably get in trouble here. And so they crank out the lie. You don't have to teach them lie. They lie out of the gate.
Oh yeah.
Right. And kids are selfish. The girl's mom used to, and it's to this day, I think it's like a button for Abby, right? Her mom would be like, you're being selfish. I remember looking at her multiple times and being like, she's 12. Of course she's selfish. We're born selfish. Our job is to get our kids out of themselves. That's our job, right?
Yep.
Children are selfish by nature. Just watch little kids, little boys. That's mine, right? It's just our nature. Our nature is, it's all about us. And, but there's no joy in that. Really, it's counter, right? And it is. You say it's baked in. I believe that. I mean, I'm a person, I believe it's the sin nature. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
Because look, when you guys were getting teenage years, I remember telling the girls over and over, I said, hey, you get into an age where you're going to be in a situation where the kids around you are doing stuff or going to do stuff that you know is not good. I said, now, when those times of decisions come, here's what I want you to think about. Whatever seems the hardest to do is probably the right thing to do.
I'd say Josh is going through that right now.
Well, we want to be accepted. But if doing drugs or stealing a car or whatever it is, if that's what's going to be accepted, you got to be able to go, I'm not doing that. And that's hard, especially when you're in that age group, right? But even adults, I was just talking with a guy the other day. You can say you don't care what anybody else thinks. You could say that all day long. But on some level, we all have something in us that cares about what other people think. You want to feel accepted or validated or whatever, right? It's just we're meant to be in community with people. And in order to do that, you're looking for that a tribe, if you want to call it a tribe or whatever. But I mean, dude, at 65 years old, I only have one person that I would call a friend from my youth. And it ain't like we see each other all the time, but when we do connect, I could sit and talk with this guy forever.
Yep.
He was my friend in first grade, all the way through high school. And then he went to an academy, like not West Point, but but that type. He went to the Merchant Marine Academy, and he became an officer in the Merchant Marines. And he's still doing that, but we have stayed connected for all these years. A couple months ago, or a month ago, my wife and I went and had dinner with him and his wife, and I was like, dude, if we see each other at the current rate of frequency, you can count on our hands the number of times we'll see each other again before one of us is dead, which is wild to think about, right? It's wild, right? I told my wife, because the second time I saw him, which was a year ago, before that, we were finished up dinner, and I was like, bro, it's so good to see you. And I went to pat him like that, and I felt a pacemaker, and I was like, dude, and he goes, I know. He says, you remember what my heart rate was in high school? I was like, yeah, it was like in the high 40s. He was a cross-country runner.
Yeah.
His dad would wake him up early enough for him to run 15 miles before work or before school.
Yeah.
Dude, his heart rate was impeccable.
Yeah.
He says, well, having a low heart rate is good until it's not. And I was like, holy shit, right? So the last time we saw him, he was telling me he had a stent put in like 4 or 5 years ago, and this and that and the other. And I looked at my wife when we got in the car, and I was like, well, I feel kind of good, because as abusive as I've been to my body, I don't have a pacemaker. I'm not taking pills. I'm not taking statins. I'm not taking whatever, but it's just wild. Wild, you'll get there.
Yeah. I'm not in any rush, but
No.
it definitely, the time is definitely flying by. The fact that I've got a kid that's a senior in high school is like blowing my mind.
How old
It's
were you
crazy.
when you had her?
22.
Yeah, I was 23 when Gab was born.
Yeah.
Oh, I waited. I was 30.
No, 23.
Yeah. Well, hey, all my girls had their kids in their 30s.
Yeah.
All of them.
We when we were 28, we were attempting. Brittany got pregnant. She was right at week 10. I think we were like a day or two away from the doctor's appointment. And I remember it happened on Christmas Eve.
Miscarriage? Oh, brutal.
The timing of everything, like literally like 3 days prior, I had to put my dog down. She was 8.5, and like in well-working healthy conditions, but she had degenerative back disease, which I ended up finding out, and she had 2 parts of her disc that were completely gone, and they were pinching a nerve, so she couldn't get up and walk.
Yeah.
So like my dad held it against me for a while. I still think he does. I could have went and got her scanned and possibly had the surgery, but like she already been through 2 major surgeries. She had bloat. She'd been split open twice because of her stomach eating stupid stuff, and it was like, for what? Like, so I can selfishly get another year out of her. And I know this dog's personality. She's not going to want to sit still after the surgery. Like, she's not going to be happy.
What kind of dog?
Cane Corso.
Oh, wow, dude.
Yeah, so it was like that happened, and then like the 2 days later, the miscarriage happened, where it's like
Ugh.
I didn't even realize that was so close together.
it is as horrible as it may sound. It helped on both ends. Took my mind off the dog, and then also the dog took my mind off the miscarriage. And
Hey, you know what, dude? It was the current dog I have right now. I have more money in than any dog I've ever had in my life. Raising the girls, right? Their mom didn't work. I worked for my dad, and bro, that didn't pay good, right? It just didn't. I'm working for my dad. My dad is going to make sure. My dad, he'd say to me, it's a Jerry Maguire moment, right? You don't have to ask me for a raise. Make yourself so valuable to me, I can't imagine operating without you. You'll get a raise, right? So we're living on what I make, right? The girl's mom was home all day, every day, so no income there. And with all the animals we had, dude, bro, 2 horses, 3 dogs, 4 cats, 3 rabbits, a cockatoo, 3 fish tanks, a hamster. I mean, dude, it was like, obviously we were like animal people. Well, I couldn't afford to do crazy stuff, vet stuff with the dogs. They got in a fight. I washed out the gash and start bag bombing it.
Yep.
I healed a ton of animals like that. But if it was serious, bad news, brother. You ain't gonna make it, because I didn't have money to pour into that. My kids were first, right? So fast forward, I go through my divorce, and dude, I'm coming home to a house that's dark. The girls are either working or at school. And I'm like going, this is my life? This is my life? Dude, it was brutal. And I was like, I thought about kidnapping our Weimaraner. I called the neighbor. I was like, dude, would you be willing to leave the gate open so the dog gets out, and then you could let me know when the dog is out, and I'll come get her, and then I can argue, well, she can't keep the dog in, so I'm taking her, and possession is 9/10 of the law, or, whatever. And then I was like, dude, I can't do that to the dog. That's her dog, man. That dog is her dog, And so I was reading the paper, and I'm in the classifieds, and there's a ad for Weimaraner puppies, and I was like, oh man, I don't care. I'm pulling the trigger. Because, dude, when I mean broke, I'm freaking broke, bro. I'm paying all of her bills and all of the bills, trying to help the girls get through school and all that. So I yanked $250 out of the company, and I sent it up to the, I call this guy, and he's like, I'm like, where are you at? And he's like, we're in Salt Lake. And I was like, that's a Nevada number. He goes, yeah, whenever we have a litter of puppies, we get a Nevada cell phone. We sell them all there, and then when we come down, we collect all the money and take a Vegas vacation. I was like, okay, cool. So I send the guy $250 deposit, and I wait, and I can't get a hold of him. And I'm like thinking, bro, I got freaking burned for $250. Well, then all of a sudden I get a call. Hey, we're coming down. And I was like, sweet. So I pick up the dog. First time in my life, I had a dog with me from a Weimaraner puppy that big, every day, all day long, 24/7. Closest I was ever to any dog. And when she died, bro, I was devastated. So the way that plays out is my mom dies in November, day before my birthday. My dog dies December. My general manager I worked with for 28 years dies in June. And I was just like, really? I was like, and I mean, it was the first time ever. I'd worked for older people that were like dog people, and they'd lose their dog, and they're like, Jim, I can't do it again. We just can't do it again. It's just too painful. And I would think, yeah, but a puppy will heal that hole, right? It was the very first time, man, where I was like, I don't know if I want to go through that again, dude. I was destroyed. But then, like, I don't know, 3-4 days, I'm in my office, and I'm like, I know the cure, and I'm online looking for Weimaraner breeders, and I got my second girl, and this girl, dude, I probably got 6 G's in vet stuff with her. which was, I would never have spent that money, ever, right? Sounds cruel, but raising the girls, I'd be like, I got that Shar-Pei for $500. I ain't seeking, I can't sink $1,500 into it, right? We had that white shepherd. And you remember the white shepherd? We had, dude, he was a huge white shepherd, right? $120 for a shepherd is big dog. And epilepsy. And dude, I'm going to a compounding pharmacy for potassium chloride and mixing it with phenobarbital, trying to find the combo that will suppress him enough that he won't have those seizures. And the vet says to me, well, you know, we could turn him to a urologist or a neurologist, and they could separate the brain hemispheres. And I was like, you're telling me we're going to cut his skull cap off and you're going to divide his brain hemispheres, and that's how much? He's like, probably around $5,000. I was like, nah, that ain't happening. Ain't happening. $5,000, right? But there are people that will put that money in.
Yeah.
No, I got lucky with because Callie, my Corso, that was the first dog that like I bought. It was my dog, and like went with me everywhere. And I thought I got off scot-free. I bought her from a breeder, and kind of the same actually kind of thing. Like I paid the deposit, then all of a sudden like things happening with litter, and then like communication was shit, and then all of a sudden finally day comes where she actually gets flown out here, and I get her, and then I think I went about 5 years, and like there was no problems, nothing. And then all of a sudden Brittany's calling me and she's letting me know there's something wrong, she's not getting up. And then we got her into the vet, and like they scan her into her stomach's flipped. We got to cut her open.
Oh yeah, bro.
We got to cut her open now. And like at that point, you know, thankfully, because
did they have the deep chest and the cut like a Dane or like a Greyhound, or do they have that cut? Because that's actually really, they're more prone to stomach flip.
Yep.
Weimaraners too. If they eat too fast or whatever, they can flip.
Yep. So I take her in, and instantly they tell her like we don't know how long it's been like this. We could get in there, and it could have been like this for hours, and then a good chance is a good part of the stomach that's dead. And if that happens, which I told the vet, like if you get in there and it's like it's bad, don't just put her down. I'm not gonna do that to her. And thankfully they got in there. And they like, no news is good news. Didn't hear anything. So I'm like, okay, things went well. And they eventually called me and said, all right, we got in there, nothing. We didn't have to cut anything, flipped it, sutured her back to the side. And at that moment, like thankfully, because growing up in the business, and another thing that you said, make yourself more valuable. That's how you get a pay raise.
Right.
Thankfully, I grasped a hold of that earlier than I'd say most. And then I used that as leverage for myself.
Right.
To where and also my dad pushing me to like, you know, you need to buy a house, you need to get out, you need to go buy a house, this is where you need to invest. I was able to do that. I was able to, that surgery was like, I think $3,600, which at that time I thought like, I would never. And then obviously presented with it. I was able to do it and pull it off. Right. All I have is just me and my wife. So I was able to do it.
Right.
Then I think like 2 weeks later, something ended up happening where it's like another $1,500 later, back to the vet.
Right.
Get past that one. Get a year into her after she's had the surgery, and they decided to split her straight open all the way down. Yeah. And the dumbass is eating rocks or eating something off the rocks, swallows 2 rocks, and now she's having issues. They scan her stomach and like, yep, see that right there? That we got to get that out. Have to split her open again. Get past that one. And then it was just, even for the surgery for the back, it wasn't even saying, because my dad was hung up on the fact that I was worried about the money. Because like for that scan, the scan itself was gave me like $2,800.
Yeah.
And if you do the scan, the surgery is only an extra like $2,000. So it's if you're doing the scan, you're doing it. And it wasn't worth hitting it. I'll say it would have been worth spending more time with her, but to put her through all that,
I know.
For that, I was just like, I just can't do it. My dad loved it. He talks about it still constantly to say, I'm going to get a Corso. I'm like, you need a Corso like you need a hole in the head, dude. Like, you understand how like stubborn these dogs are. Like, I didn't even understand. I got lucky that I had a dog where she did have a little bit of aggression issue, but that was purely on me not actually getting her out and socializing her properly.
Bro. My dog right now, not social at all. Like her world from pup is my house to the office to my house. If I take a wrong turn, if I go any way other than our normal route, the minute I turn, it's like a block, and she starts panting and starts whining like, this isn't how we go, you know? And she loves the two guys that work with me. She loves our family. Dude, she loves our family, loves our grandkids. That's it. That is it. I have to have people mail money to my house because if it comes through the door at my shop, it gets shredded. The number of checks I've had to piece together. It's literally. I just had to piece together my notice for registration. It wound up in like 6 or 7 pieces, right? And I'm like, oh crap! I need to get these barcodes right, you know what I mean? But that was it. She just I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. It was like a Thursday night. I'm at the shop. During the day, I walk her on a leash to go pee, take a crap, whatever. At night, there's like freaking nobody there. There's nobody, hardly anybody. So I'll come out and I'll be like, hey, go pee. And she'll run down to these rocks in front of this building by our shop and she'll pee and then get her in the car. So I let her go and I look over and across the street from my office is like this abandoned hotel that this guy that had, you ever heard of LV.net?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The guy that owned that bought this hotel and started demoing it years ago and got stopped. Really, his primary desire was to build a big sign right at the Sahara off-ramp on I-15 that he could generate income out of for advertising. So this thing has been sitting like that forever. Well, there's an old guy there that's like a groundskeeper. Man, when I'm talking demoed, 90% of the windows are gone. Drywall gone. It's just, so somewhere in that hotel is a room or two where people can live. The power's still on or whatever, but it's just a freaking nightmare. He's got a pit. And I saw this pit for years. It was a brindle girl, and I would watch her and just be like, that is a freaking mellow pit, man. Because she would like, it's like Caesar. He'd walk, he's older, and you know, this is not a guy in good shape, got a big, huge pot belly, and he's walking slow, and that pit is just behind him, lumbering. Would go and see people, and just super mellow. She'd look over, see my dog, and no big deal. My dog would bark, and she'd just look at her, and then he'd say, well, you know, and she'd just right back with him, whatever. Well, she disappeared, and a new pit shows up. So not last Thursday, but Thursday before, I've seen this pit. He's not quite as well behaved as the girl was, but he's still pretty well behaved. And I send my dog to go pee, and I see the pit out. And then the pit starts to come forward, and he's got his head down, kind of looking. So now I'm over where my dog is, and I thought, So I just reached down and got a hold of her collar. And he keeps advancing. He gets up to this little short wall, and he's kind of got his head down. He's looking at her, and I'm like, this doesn't look real good. Guy's yelling at him to come back. Doesn't come back. All of a sudden, he just kind of lopes down around the wall and starts advancing. And I don't want to like do something crazy to this guy's dog in front of him. I'm thinking maybe he's going to come up and posture up and sniff and all that. But bro, when he got to my dog, it was on. And I'm like tripping because I don't want my dog hurt.
Yep.
So I grab him by the collar, pulled him back. He broke loose. Got after her. I grab him by the collar again and pull him back this way. And he got loose and then sunk his fangs.
Oh, no.
Got into my arm. My dog takes off, right? I went up with my dog at home. didn't think I think I got her good. I see no blood. When I check her in my car, I'm like, oh shit. He got her down here in the flank and opened her up. I go to ER because dude, the first thing I did was once I got my dog in the car, I ran into my office. My arm is just like freaking bleeding like crazy. I got no fat anymore at this age. My skin is like thin. I wash my arm real good. I pour alcohol. I'm pouring alcohol on, and which I can't even feel because, dude, I have a massive adrenaline.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, I need to freaking get to. I go over and ask the guy, "Hey, is your dog vaccinated? Is your dog shots?" Well, he's not. He's feeding me a line of shit. But I've seen the dog long enough. In my head, I'm like, he ain't got rabies.
Yeah.
Right? If he had rabies, I would notice it over this period of time. So, but I probably should just be checked out because I'm thinking I need really good cleansing or whatever. So I go to an ER, thinking I'll get a higher standard of care. It was a joke. This male nurse is like gently washing my arm with saline, gives me a tetanus shot. They take an x-ray. I'm like, I don't think my arm is broken, dude. Well, it could be a hairline fracture. They have a lot of power in their jaws. I was like, okay, whatever. So I'm sitting there waiting and I'm like, dude, I'm not waiting 3 hours here. I need to get my dog some care. So I called my wife. I said, hey, call the emergency doctor. It's 8:00 at night. There's no vet, right? You got to go to the vet ER, which is outrageous, right? I said, tell him I got a dog that needs 4 or 5 stitches, cleaned up, and 4 or 5 stitches. How much? So my wife texts me back, $1,500 to $2,000. And I'm like, no, I'm not spending freaking $2,000. I've already got 6 G's in this girl. And it's only a cut about that long. So I stopped by Walgreens on the way home. I picked up this pressurized saline, picked up some betadine, right? Take care of my dog, and then I did my own, redid my own stuff. But I took her to my vet the next day, 5 staples, rabies shot, antibiotics, $248. And you want $2,000? Get the freak out of here, right? That's their business model. They're not paying anybody OT.
Yeah.
Right? They're not.
No.
They're only open when the vets close till they open.
Yeah.
So all their people work a straight shift, but they can get what they get because
they hold that over you. They know that your dog needs the care right now. Oh,
that's
absolutely.
That's it. But I was tempted. Because, dude, this dog is like...
All right, guys, we're going to cut this conversation off right here. Please tune in next week. You're not going to want to miss the second part.